If you're in your 60s, 70s, or even 80s and have stopped having sex, I have something to tell you that might come as a shock. This isn't merely about pleasure. It's intricately linked to your heart, your brain, and your very connection to life. If no one else has ever shared this with you, let me be the first. Giving up on intimacy could be silently robbing you of your health, vitality, and even your sense of purpose. I'm Dr. James. For over 30 years, I've dedicated myself to helping men and women reclaim their well-being after the age of 60. I've witnessed firsthand what happens when we stop viewing sex as a luxury and start recognizing it as an essential aspect of the aging process. You might think, it's too late for me, or that part of my life is over. However, the reality is that there are 4 distinct, tangible, and emotional consequences that set in when intimacy fades away. Most people remain unaware of these until it's too late. But here's the encouraging news. It's never too late to rekindle that aspect of yourself. In this video, I'll show you exactly how. And in just a moment, we'll start by exploring the most astonishing risk of all. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I invite you to do so now and click the bell icon. That way, you won't miss any future videos aimed at helping you live a stronger, longer, and more connected life. If this message resonates with you, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to help me better understand how I can support you on your journey. Now, let's discuss the first and perhaps most overlooked consequence of losing intimacy after the age of 60. How it insidiously begins to impact your brain, memory, and your overall perception of life. When your brain ages at an accelerated rate. I still vividly remember a patient from years ago, George, a 72-year-old retired math teacher. He came to my office complaining of forgetfulness. Names slipped his mind, and he struggled to focus. "Doc," he said, "I just don't feel sharp anymore." At first glance, nothing seemed obviously wrong. There were no signs of dementia, and no underlying illness was detected. But after several candid conversations, George revealed something significant. Since his wife passed away, he hadn't been sexually active not even once in nearly 5 years. It's easy to dismiss this detail, and many people do. However, scientific research, along with my extensive experience in practice, tells a different story. When sexual intimacy vanishes, the brain loses one of its most potent sources of stimulation. Sexual activity increases blood flow to the brain, particularly in areas associated with memory, emotion, and learning. It triggers the release of dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphins, natural chemicals that enhance mood, reduce stress, and actually safeguard the brain against aging. Without this stimulation and the associated chemical release, the brain can start to slow down, focus deteriorates, energy levels drop, and, most alarmingly, the risk of cognitive decline and even early onset dementia begins to rise. I'm not suggesting that sex is a miraculous cure-all, but when it's absent for months or even years, the brain is deprived of a profoundly human experience that fuels vitality. It's not about performance or youth. It's about connection. Intimacy of any kind, whether it's through touch, closeness, or sexual expression, helps keep the mind engaged and the emotional circuits active. Without it, people often start to withdraw socially. They become less curious, less motivated, and sometimes even neglect their own self-care. This gradual decline isn't just emotional, it has neurological implications. That's why I take this issue so seriously, because once this decline sets in, it's extremely difficult to reverse. But with the right approach, you can definitely keep your brain active, alert, and emotionally vibrant well into your 80s and beyond. While the brain often shows the earliest signs of sexual disconnection, the body doesn't remain unaffected for long either. In fact, there are noticeable and potentially dangerous changes occurring within your physical health that most people completely overlook. Let's explore what happens to your circulation, strength, and hormones when sex quietly fades from your life. 2. Your body loses essential circulation and hormonal balance. I recall a conversation with a couple, Linda and Carl, both in their late 60s. They had been married for nearly 40 years, but over the past 5 years, their physical connection had gradually faded. "We just assumed that part of life was over," Linda said softly, almost apologetically. Carl nodded in agreement but admitted that he didn't feel like himself anymore. His energy was low, he had lost muscle mass, gained weight, and felt much older than his actual age. Upon further examination, one thing became clear: their intimacy had completely disappeared. This is a scenario I encounter far too frequently. When sexual activity ceases, especially after the age of 60, the body starts to lose its natural rhythm. The cardiovascular benefits that come with arousal and physical touch diminish. Circulation slows down, blood vessels become less responsive, and the delivery of oxygen to vital organs such as the heart and brain decreases. Sex is not just about pleasure. It's a form of exercise that promotes blood flow, increases lung capacity, and supports a healthy heart. When it stops, the body notices the difference. However, perhaps even more critical are the hormonal changes that occur in both men and women. Sexual activity plays a crucial role in hormone regulation. In men, testosterone levels can plummet without sexual stimulation, leading to fatigue, weight gain, irritability, and even depression. For women, estrogen and oxytocin levels drop, increasing the risk of osteoporosis, joint pain, and mood swings. These are not minor inconveniences. They can significantly impact mobility, independence, and long-term health. What concerns me the most is how stealthily these changes take place. You don't wake up one morning and feel a drastic difference. Instead, it's a gradual process. You start walking a little slower, stop going to the gym, sleep poorly, gain weight, and begin to attribute it all to normal aging. But the truth is, a significant portion of these changes could be a direct result of physical disconnection and a lack of sexual stimulation. Here's something many people don't realize. You don't have to engage in intercourse to experience the benefits. Gentle touch, physical closeness, and even emotional intimacy can reactivate those hormonal pathways. It's not about performance, it's about being present, and the longer you go without it, the more challenging it becomes to restore your bodous balance. However, as concerning as these physical changes are, they don't compare to the deepest loss of all. Because when intimacy fades, it's not just your body that's affected, it's your identity, your relationships, and your sense of self-worth. For many older adults, this silent pain runs much deeper than they're willing to admit. Let's discuss what happens to your relationships and your sense of self when sex quietly disappears. 3. Your relationships and self-worth may suffer in silence. I've witnessed a particular kind of silence far too often in long-term couples. It's a silence that lingers between them, not loud or angry, but heavy and palpable. I once spoke with a 74-year-old woman named Margaret. Her husband had survived cancer, but the treatments had taken a toll, and as a result, they had stopped being intimate. I don't want him to feel pressured, she told me, but I also miss being touched. Her eyes welled up as she whispered, I miss feeling like someone's partner, not just their caregiver. This quiet distance, both emotional and physical, can gradually erode even the strongest relationships. When intimacy fades, even for understandable reasons, we often stop reaching out, initiating contact, and believing that we are still desirable. What's left is a profound sense of loneliness, not just the feeling of being alone, but the sense of being unseen by someone who once knew us better than anyone else. Over time, this loneliness can transform into resentment, shame, or deep-seated insecurity. One partner might assume the other has lost interest, while the other may feel guilty, fearful, or frustrated. But most of the time, they don't talk about it, they simply adapt. And slowly, what was once a vibrant relationship becomes mechanical. Two people may be living together, but they are no longer fully connected. And if you're single, this applies just as strongly. When we stop believing that we are worthy of physical or emotional closeness, we start to withdraw, not only in terms of desire but also in our sense of identity. We lose a part of ourselves that craves to be wanted, held, and valued as a complete person. This erosion of self-worth may not show up in blood tests, but it can significantly reduce the quality of your life and rob you of joy. What worries me the most is how hidden this damage can be. You can be surrounded by family and still feel emotionally starved. You can be a loving spouse and still feel unwanted. And over time, this emptiness can lead to depression, anxiety, social withdrawal, and in some cases, even a serious decline in health. Because humans are social beings who need connection to thrive. But here's the most empowering truth. It doesn't have to be this way. Even the smallest steps towards affection, openness, and vulnerability can start to rebuild those broken bridges. I've seen couples in their 70s start laughing together again, flirting, and falling in love all over again, not because their bodies were perfect, but because they had the courage to reach out to each other once more. Still, for all the emotional impact. The next consequence might be the most severe of all, because when intimacy disappears, it's not just your brain, body, or heart at risk, it could actually shorten your lifespan. Let me share what scientific research has to say, for you may unknowingly be shortening your life. I once cared for a man named Robert. At 81 years old, he was proud, independent, and incredibly sharp, but what struck me the most wasn't his blood pressure or heart health. It was how full of life he seemed compared to others his age. When I asked him what he thought kept him going, he smiled and said, "I still flirt with my wife every morning, we hold each other every night, and sometimes," he chuckled, "we still make love." It wasn't about the act itself, it was about the connection, the spark, and the joy that came from feeling truly alive. What Robert understood, perhaps intuitively, has been proven time and again by science. Regular sexual intimacy, in any form, is associated with a longer life. I'm not talking about extreme physical activity or the expectations of youth. I'm referring to genuine, consistent closeness, touch, affection and arousal. These experiences trigger the release of powerful chemicals like oxytocin and endorphins, which reduce inflammation, lower blood pressure, and strengthen the heart. In fact, a study published in the British Medical Journal found that older adults who maintained a regular sex life had significantly lower mortality rates. This isn't just an opinion. It's based on solid data. Physical affection isn't just comforting, it's life-sustaining. It improves sleep quality, boosts immunity, reduces stress hormones like cortisol, and gives your nervous system the reset it needs as you age. But when that intimacy vanishes, the body gradually starts to change for the worse. Stress levels remain elevated, sleep becomes restless, the immune system weakens, and you may feel more anxious, isolated, and less motivated to be active or socialize. These aren't just emotional effects, they have real, measurable consequences for your health and, ultimately, your lifespan. Too many people accept this decline as an inevitable part of aging, but in reality, it often begins with a lack of connection. Our bodies are designed to thrive on closeness. When we deprive ourselves of it, whether by choice, habit, or circumstance, we silently increase our risk of chronic illness, depression, and premature death. This may sound harsh, but it's a truth I've witnessed in far too many lives. However, I've also seen something equally powerful. I've watched people in their 70s and 80s re-establish that connection, and it has literally transformed not only how they feel but also how they live their lives. That spark of life is still within you, even if it's been buried under years of silence or self-doubt. This leads me to the most important message of all. No matter how long it's been since you've experienced intimacy or how distant it may seem right now, you can bring it back. Let me show you how to start. Because it's never too late to begin again. 5. It's never too late to start anew. I'll never forget a woman named Eleanor. She was 78 when she came to see me. She was intelligent and composed, but her voice trembled as she said, "I miss feeling like a woman. Not just someone's grandmother or patient, just a woman." It had been nearly a decade since she had experienced any form of physical affection, and she admitted that she had come to believe that part of her life was over. But what she didn't know, and what I see every day in my practice, is that the human spirit has an amazing capacity to reawaken, regardless of age or the length of time that has passed. The truth is, as long as you're alive, intimacy is possible. Desire may evolve with age, and your body may not respond the way it once did, but genuine, fulfilling connection never expires. Rebuilding intimacy doesn't have to involve grand gestures or physical acts. Sometimes, it can start with a simple conversation, holding hands, sharing a laugh, or even making eye contact, being vulnerable, and saying those simple words, "I miss you." These small steps can reopen doors that you thought were closed forever. For couples who have grown apart, taking that first step can feel awkward and even terrifying. But every time I've seen someone take that leap of faith, they emerge on the other side feeling lighter, more alive, and closer than they've been in years. And if you're single, widowed, or currently alone, don't think this message isn't for you. Reconnection can start with self-acceptance and self-care. Your body still deserves attention and care, and your heart still has room for touch, joy, and companionship. Whether it's through therapeutic touch, deep friendships, or opening yourself up to the possibility of future love, the path is still open. The question isn't, can I get it back? The question is, am I willing to try? I've worked with countless individuals who thought their time for intimacy had passed. Some were dealing with illness, while others were burdened by shame, fear, or years of emotional distance. But when they gave themselves the freedom to try without pressure or expectation, something inside them was reignited. Their energy improved, their health got better, and most importantly, they started to feel like themselves again. You're not too old, you haven't lost the chance, and your story isn't over yet. Your next chapter could be the most rewarding one of all. So now I pose this question to you: if you knew that one small step could bring back vitality, joy, and a deeper sense of connection, what would stop you from taking it? 6. Conclusion. If you've made it this far, I want to express my sincere gratitude, not just for watching or listening, but for being open-minded. Discussing topics like sex, connection, and aging can be uncomfortable, evoking feelings of regret or even grief. But through my decades of working with older adults, I've learned one undeniable truth: the desire to feel alive, to be close to others, and to be truly seen never fades away. It merely gets buried beneath layers of time, loss, and silence. We've explored how intimacy loss can cause your brain to age prematurely, weaken your circulation and hormonal balance, silently damage your relationships, and even impact your lifespan. These are not trivial side effects. They are real, measurable, and life-changing consequences. However, there is a glimmer of hope that runs through all these risks. They are not inevitable. I've witnessed people reconnect after decades of emotional distance. Widows and widowers find love again in their 70s. Men regain their confidence, and women rediscover their beauty and desirability. And what did all these people have in common? They gave themselves the permission to start over. This isn't about trying to turn back the clock. It's about reclaiming what is rightfully yours: intimacy, joy, and human connection. These aren't exclusive to the young. In fact, I believe they become even more crucial as we age, as they nourish our souls just as much as they support our physical well-being. So, wherever you are in your life journey, in a loving marriage, a struggling relationship, single, or somewhere in between, I hope this message serves as a reminder that your story is far from over. There is still time for laughter, healing, and closeness. If a small voice inside you is saying, "Maybe I could try," I encourage you to listen to it. You don't have to fix everything overnight, and you don't need to have a perfect plan. All you need to do is take that first step. It could be starting a conversation, a gentle touch, or simply allowing yourself to hope again. Because you're not done yet, not even close. And if no one has told you recently, you deserve to feel alive, desired, and connected. Not in some distant future or in memories, but right now. Let this be the beginning of something new. Your best chapter may still be waiting to be written. If this message has touched you in any way, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who might benefit from hearing it, and leave a comment below. Whether it's a one to show it resonated with you or sharing your own story, your voice matters, and you never know whose life you might positively impact.